Wouldn't you love to have that? Wouldn't you love to get that on a CD? You'd love to get anything on a CD. But TEP is guaranteed a 10% return by the structure of the Corporation Commission. And I promise you, rate making, the process of establishing the rates is very complicated and very intriguing. And once you get into it, you learn so much. It can exhaust you. But what's important here, and what we're going to talk about tonight, is that our Arizona Corporation Commission is corrupted. Purely and simply. 4 years ago, there were two candidates for the Corporation Commission on the Republican side, Lucy Mason and Vernon Parker. And they did not cut the mustard as far as Arizona Public Service is concerned. Arizona Public Service is the largest electrical provider in the state of Arizona. They provide service for a good portion of Phoenix, if not a majority, but even come down to Douglas and Bisbee, has the main power line to the Chios, parts of Pinal County, up to Flagstaff, Cameron, and Tuba City. Prescott, Payson, that whole area, over 1 million customers. And APS inserted itself into the primary of the Republican primary to make sure that Tom Farese and Doug Little got through that primary. And then invested campaign money in the general election to defeat Sandra Kennedy and Jim
Mundell.
Jim. I'm sorry. Holloway.
Hollow.
Thank you. And this was dark money. No one knows for sure exactly how much it is because APS, through the creation of private nonprofits, invested that money and, don't have to report it. Now, when I ran for office, every cent I collected, I had to report. Jason back there is running for the Corporation Commission as a clean elections candidate. He's collecting $5 contributions. If you give him $5, it's reported to the Arizona Secretary of State's office. But when APS wanted to influence the Corporation Commission race 4 years ago, they put $3.5 million in it, and no one knew who spent it. I'm going to describe how APS corrupted Arizona State University's Alumni Association. They gave them something like $100,000, who turned around and gave $60,000 to an organization that spent money in the Corporation Commission race. APS did that everywhere. They corrupted everybody. Now, 2 years ago, when I ran with Bill Mundell, when Bill and I were running, APS said, was quiet. You know why they were quiet? Because the FBI subpoenaed records from APS and the Corporation Commission about that race 4 years ago. There was a letter from a staff person at the Corporation Commission that after the election saw certain things going on and concerned that person sat down and wrote a letter to Mark Brnovich, the newly elected Attorney General for the state. Brnovich got that thing, and here it alleges APS has a role and is involved in the commission, and this is bad, and this is bad, and this is bad. Brnovich said, I can't handle this because APS put $500,000 into my race to elect me. How's that? Dark money. Dark money. So Brnovich, if nothing else, is ethical because he gave the file to the FBI. Now the question is, did then Commissioner, Gary Pierce, through a series of meetings with the CEOs of Arizona Public Service, make an agreement to have them invest $700,000 into his son's race for Secretary of State that year. Dark money. In exchange for a vote on the commission involving a rate case of APS. That investigation is still ongoing. But because all the headlines and everything that was involved there, APS 2 years ago had decided they weren't going to get involved with the Corporation Commission. Now, they tell us, Bill Mundell and I were running for the Corporation Commission. We were running against Andy Tobin. Hold on here. Andy Tobin, Boyd Dunn, and Bob Burns. Now, there were 3 positions open on the commission last time. Bill Mundell and I were the only 2 Democratic candidates. And let me tell you something. Bob Burns, I hope you voted for him. He's a Republican. He is conservative as names. He would agree with Ducey's agenda about cutting taxes to everything and all that stuff. But he's an honest man. Okay. And he's libertarian in nature. What he doesn't like is bullies like utilities telling you that you can't put solar on your home by manipulating the rates. He wants a fair playing field. The other thing he wants is transparency. Now, in the Arizona Constitution, as previously discussed, it discussed the powers of the commissioners. And it says that individually or severally, a commissioner may subpoena the records of APS, of a utility. And Bob Burns wrote this very nice letter and said, what did you spend in that dark money campaign? What did you spend in 2014? APS said, that's our constitutional right. We don't have to tell you. Now, that's in litigation. That is ongoing. But what's funny is that APS, 5 minutes? Okay, I'll put 15 on here. So. I got another 3. So, now APS said no. And by the way, the commission and every utility in the state of Arizona last year got a rate increase. And they mirrored each other. They're almost exactly the same. Unisource and Cayman, APS, Trico, TEP, Sulphur Springs, Co-op. They all had the same element. All of them backed, all of them used the research that was submitted by APS. All of them. They acted in concert. Now, Bob Burns is saying, you know, if we had these records on the political contributions by APS, and if it were made public, maybe the commission would come up with a decision that differs than the one they made, which was to pass it, to give APS what they wanted. The commission passed it 4-1. But what's in the courts right now is Bob Burns' subpoenas. And if the courts say, yes, he does have a right to those subpoenas, and yes, it should have been considered in part of the record of that rate case, then that rate case is going to be overturned. They're going to have to consider it again. Now, they're going to do what APS wants. This commission is bought and paid for. I'm not talking about people taking money under the table. What I'm saying is that APS is such a political beast in Arizona, you dare not cross them. I tell you, I did, and I had more fun. True. making those illegitimate children spend $4 million against Bill Mandel and me to defeat us the last 2 weeks of the campaign because we were ahead. But to stop us, they had to spend $4 million. And I'm telling you, it was fun. I mean that. In this state, for a Democrat to win a statewide race, it's tough, right? And to threaten the foundation of the corruption of Arizona to the core, that they had to open up their pocketbook, believe me, that was fun.
Why were you ahead until this expenditure of money?
Why were we ahead? I think our message was out. I mean, we campaigned in areas service